Well, hello there, and welcome back to part 4 of our character tutorial series. Today we're going to be working on hair, but before we do that, we're going to start off on the brows and eyelashes. As you can see here, I'm just grabbing a regular plane, adding some modifiers, and then we're going to be doing some basic modeling to get the shape of the brow. As you can see here, I'm using the snap mode at the very top, alongside with the shrink wrap modifier on the right, so that the actual brow itself kind of sticks to the head. I'm gonna be going for a very simple, brow design. Now for the actual eyelashes themselves, the way I like to make them is actually using curves instead of, modeling them with planes and stuff like that. So we're going to be just grabbing a good old regular curve, moving it into position so it kind of covers the eyes. Move it to, closer to the eye. And then once it's in position, we're going to go on the right side and give it a little bit of a bevel. We're going to press Alt S and then 0 to make the endpoints, pointy. Give it a little bit of a mirror and edge crease. Then we duplicate that and just, move it to the bottom so we have our lower eyelash. And in my opinion, I really like, the way this looks, this design. And I pretty much use it for pretty much all my characters. I used to, model it with just planes and stuff like that. But I don't know, after a while I decided, this looks really nice. So I kind of moved on using this kind of method. Now we're going to move on to the actual hair itself. The first thing that I do is I always create a hair shape, which is basically kind of like a blueprint on how the hair is going to look. You grab a, Bezier circle, you change the handle type to be vector, and now it becomes like a square. And then you kind of make it a little bit like a rounder square, and then like a rectangle, like that. And now you can start adding some detail to it. I went for a pretty simple design, I think. I didn't want to overcomplicate it too much. And then you just grab a regular, curve, and then in the bevel you select object, and then select the hair shape that we use. But I guess I'm just right now positioning the actual hair. There you go. Yeah, hair shape. There you go. And then you will see that the actual thing that we created at the bottom of the character will create the hair shape that you want. Now here I'm going to be using a pretty nice trick to create a bunch of like hairs, because at the back side of the character there's going to be like a ponytail. And I'm going to show you a really cool way of like creating a bunch of hairs very easily. Here I kind of just like quickly drew like a approximation of where the hairline is going to be. Make sure to change the pivot point to be the 3D cursor, and then duplicate and then rotate, and it will rotate as on the 3D cursor's like, you know, rotation, and create this kind of like perfect like, you know, sphere of hairs, which we definitely want it to look like that. Because, you know, as I said, we're going to be doing like a ponytail thingy. Now keep in mind that every time you duplicate and rotate, it's going to tilt the curve in the wrong direction, so you have to manually tilt it back. As you can see, I'm doing it right now. You can just press Ctrl T and then tilt it back into position. Also, make sure that when you're duplicating these hairs, you do not move or rotate your camera. Make sure to, you know, duplicate all the curves first. And once you're happy with the amount of curves that you have, then you can finally, you know, start moving the camera around. Because if you start moving the camera around before you duplicate everything, then the actual rotation is not going to be perfect and it might not look good. Now, obviously, you know, it's not necessary that you know, make it perfect, but, you know, if you want it to look decentish, then, you know, just, you know, duplicate first everything and then, you know, start moving your camera around left and right and stuff like that. As you can see here, the hair right now are kind of looking a little bit all over the place. They're very messy, but, you know, we're going to be fixing it bit by bit. Here I noticed that I'm gonna be needing more curves, which I didn't duplicate enough, which I should have, but, you know, that's fine. I think later on I tried to, like, if you need more curves, then make sure that you always try to, like, you know, get the camera alignment how you had it originally, so that, you know, the rotation is good. It doesn't need to be perfect, to be honest, but you know, the closer it is to the original, you know, the better results you're gonna get. Although I guess in this case I didn't really need to, like, you know, worry about that. I just kind of duplicated and moved it into position. So as you can see here, where all the curves are meeting, there's a lot of clipping. So what I did is I just selected that area around the middle, and I just kind of like scaled it down by pressing Alt S, And as you can see here, that clipping kind of mostly went away. There's still a little bit clipping here and there. That's why I'm trying to kind of like, move things around here. Move them a little bit to the left and kind of like try to like, try to hide as much clipping as possible. Now, to be honest, when it comes to hair and stuff, even if there's like a lot of clipping, most of the time you're not going to notice it because of like the materials and stuff. But I decided, you know what, let me try to, minimize the clipping and stuff. And as you can see here, pretty much like it's almost gone. Like there's like very minimal clipping here and there. You can kind of barely even notice it. So right now I'm kind of in that phase where I'm trying to kind of like close all the holes. Because you don't want, holes on your hair. Because if you have that, then you're going to be able to see the skin, which is underneath, So now that we're done with the back side, obviously we're going to work on the front side of the hair. Just kind of duplicated one of the hairs and made it pointy. And unfortunately the hair is not really symmetrical, so we're not going to be able to use the mirror modifier. We're going to have to do basically everything manually. But, that's fine. There I just pressed Alt-T to clear the tilt. It's very useful to kind of sometimes reset the tilt for the hair curve, so you can have like a fresh start. And then you can tilt it later on, however you want. And as always, make sure that you have, references and stuff like that. They do help a lot. Every time you see me stop for like a second or two, I'm just always looking at the reference. I know that a lot of people have trouble making hair. I also, when I first started doing hair, had a lot of trouble. But over time, you learn to basically look at the reference and try to even the messiest hair can be simplified by just kind of trying to figure out where the hair curves are located in the hair, and just trying to kind of simplify the hair, and then kind of go step at a time, one step at a time to figure out where the curves need to be. And also don't be discouraged, because if you're using a bunch of 2D references to create your hair, do keep in mind that a lot of 2D artists, they do cheat when it comes to hair. And that's not really a bad thing. It's just, you have to keep that in mind, that, a lot of the hair that it looks good in 2D will not look good and will not make sense in 3D, because, they did a bunch of cheating. Especially if you're doing anime characters and stuff. There's a lot of cheating there that just doesn't really make sense in 3D. For example, you might be looking at 2 different references of the certain, the same character, right? And in one reference, the hair looks one way, and the other reference, it looks another way. And it's like, how is this even possible? Well, it's not. That's the thing. It's like there's a lot of just, things that really don't make sense when you kind of think about it. But, they look cool. So that's what really matters. And, they try, in 2D, they look really amazing. And it's like when you try to actually, figure it out, well, it's like, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense. So, don't be discouraged. Sometimes when things don't make sense, you just have to kind of like, figure things out on your own and just kind of like try to design it in a sense that, in a way that makes sense. When I first started doing, 3D characters, I would always try to like 100%, recreate what I see in the reference. And in a lot of cases, it's not really possible, it doesn't really make sense. And in that way, I would always recommend to try to kind of be a little bit flexible, try to kind of a little bit more creative and stuff, and figure it out in a way that looks good. So I think at this point we're gonna be doing the backside of the ponytail. This part is fairly simple, really. You just basically like put a bunch of curves at the back, duplicate them, and just kind of try to create like a full shape of hair. Now, as you can see here, the hair at the back, it kind of looks, like a rectangle, because, that's what the hair shape is. So I decided, you know what, let me duplicate the hair shape, squish it a little bit, make it a little bit more circular by smoothing out the vertices. And then we're going to click on the actual hair at the back and change the bevel object to be the new hair shape. And as you can see here, now the hair is more round, which makes more sense, You want the kind of like flat rectangular strips of hair for the, main, front part, right? Because that, looks a little bit better. And then when it comes to the back, for example, in the ponytails and stuff, you want it to be a little bit more, rounder. Now, obviously, you could use the, the rectangle, shape at the back as well, but, might as well, change it and, make it, look better. So I think at this point we're going to be doing some braids. Now braids, in my opinion, they're always kind of annoying to do. And right now this workflow that I have is probably like the most, I guess, optimized that I have so far discovered. And it's also pretty flexible as well. That's very important because the methods that I used in the past were not really flexible. So as you can see here, I just have two curves. Well, it's just one curve, but I kind of duplicated it. And then as you can see, I'm kind of trying to make this kind of like, braid shape. It kind of looks very abstract right now, but trust me, once we actually, you know, put everything down, it's going to look pretty decent actually. So at this point, we're gonna grab another circle. This is going to be the shape of our braid, I guess. Once again, we're gonna go and do that like, you know, vector shenanigans. Create that rectangle. You know, make it a little bit, you know, curvy. And just like last time, you know, we're gonna link it to that hair shape. Make it a little bit smaller. Now, as you can see here, right now it's not really looking that good, but once we rotate it a little bit, and then rotate the other part as well. Yeah, starting to get there. You know, make the tips, you know, pointy. Move things around left and right. And then we're gonna grab another curve. It's basically like, you know, 3 curves together. We're gonna do a classic array modifier. And then the curve modifier. And at this point, we're pretty much, you know, done making the braid. We just kind of have to, like, you know, adjust it, you know, make it a little bit smaller, move things around. So here, I noticed that it was kind of a little bit laggy, the braid, I mean. So I decided to change the resolution to be a little bit lower resolution. And here I'm kind of just demonstrating that, you know, you can like change the resolution there. Once again, making the curve smaller so that, there's more segments to it. And then here I just decided, you know what, let me double layer it so it's, visible on both sides. So I just duplicated, rotated 180 degrees, and then just kind of like, moved it close together. To be honest, I didn't really have to do this. I feel like it was a little bit unnecessary, but I decided, you know what, sure, let's just, double side it. Obviously, this is not really how braids work in real life, but, you can call it like a stylized braid. At the very end, you just saw that I selected that edge at the very, or the vertex at the very bottom, and then I just pressed Alt S to make the braid itself, pointy at the end. As you can see here, I moved the camera on the left so I can see what I'm changing right here at the bottom. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Take care, my dudes. Bye-bye.